Today we are here with Roy Samuels. Roy is a serial entrepreneur and his first business sold for many millions, and the company he's building today is one of the fastest growing companies in the UK. This episode will be the blueprint for building a successful company in 2026. But Roy, just for some context, what should people know about you and your background to understand who you are today?
Yeah, first off, thanks so much for having me, gents. Real pleasure to be here. I guess my entrepreneurial career started when I was 14 years old because I was nearly thrown out of school. Heavily ADHD, dyslexic, wasn't very good in school. The teachers were probably right. I was very distracted and very distractive and a bit of a nightmare, is the truth. But got very fortunate to get that diagnosis, started understanding my brain a bit more, but knew very, very quickly that I wasn't going to get a job. Because your teachers are telling you, you can't sit still, you can't concentrate, you don't fit in with this, you're getting kicked out of class constantly. So if you can't make it as a student, what's the likelihood of making it as a doctor or, something else like that? So I knew from very early on that I was going to have to go down a different path. My dad had also been an entrepreneur, a bit of a failed one is the truth. He grew up in Glasgow with nothing really in the 50s and, built his way up, was a bus driver, long distance truck driver, or lorry driver, I guess as we call it in the UK. Ended up being a cab driver for a while and had seen a lot of the entrepreneurial journey, the ups and downs. Family lost everything when I was like 6-7 years old. So was really aware of what it meant to go down the entrepreneurial route, the chaos, the up and down that might go with it. I guess I was pretty much out the box, knowing I was going to have to do something for myself. And been a bit of a wild ride since.
If you had to pinpoint a key moment that you would say influenced you becoming an entrepreneur, what would that be?
When I was, I guess it would have been like 13, 14, I started selling CDs. Burning CD. This has made me show my age, by the way. Do you guys remember CDs?
I know what burning CD means.
Burning CD.
I think I've heard of CD.
Yeah, remember those? Yeah. And I used to make basically like mix CDs for people, and used to start selling that. And I so enjoyed it. But I also really enjoyed the process of creating it, and how that with the ADHD brain really satisfied the dopamine of going into the schoolyard with a CD wallet and selling it with my mate. And sometimes someone would steal a CD, all that, the fun that goes with being an entrepreneur. I think it just unlocked that dopamine hit inside where it's like, cool, there's something here. And then over the years, it was then trying to start some like under 18 raves, go to uni, start doing club nights. So I think it goes from there and you just, you follow where you feel that energy.
And then it went to the nightclub, which is StudentSoc.
Yes.
Can you explain what that company did?
Yeah, so I was running club nights at uni, which was a lot of fun, but I wanted to build something more around that. There was a student newspaper called The Tab, if that means anything to you guys. Right, yeah. Back in like 2012. And it was basically online, shared through Facebook, through socials, and it was shit. It was really bad. It was like, look at what the people from Exeter University have to eat for dinner. Like, it was just awful. I was like, cool, maybe we can do something here. There are a lot of smart students out there. Maybe we can bring together what we're doing with the club nights with an online platform. We started to run some trips as well. So we were doing like Nottingham to Amsterdam. We were doing like a trip to Old Trafford for some of the, international students who like wanted to see United and stuff. So we started playing around with those things and tried to build an online platform that would give students tools to actually build the types of content they wanted to, because content creation tools were not what they are today by any means back at that time. We rolled it out at like 7 different universities. So we're in the 2 Nottingham universities, we're in Birmingham, we're in Leeds. We had something really cool going. We're throwing lots of events, which was a lot of fun, but ultimately died because students don't have money. And at that time, sponsors didn't understand like data. They didn't understand like building wait lists in the way that we think about it now. So sponsors just didn't care about the student market. So it flopped.
Did this business eventually transition into RealSport? Because you mentioned a platform element there. And that RealSport was a sports sort of content engine, wasn't it, in a way?
Yeah, exactly that, mate. So we realized that the principles were there. The market was just wrong.
Okay.
So we took what we'd built and started applying it to the world of sports and gaming.
So it literally just was a pivot. You carried on. You didn't take a break for a while. You're like, no, we're going to keep using this model. We've seen it's been validated, essentially.
So the real story is after StudentSoc fell over, me and my friends started to do a podcast called Real Talk, which we really enjoyed doing. It was a lot of fun. Again, quite ahead of its time back in like 2013, 24. Well, it must have been 2013. And we were making no money from it, and it just wasn't really going anywhere, but we loved doing it. And we realized we could partner with a few sports brands as affiliates. So we became affiliated with like a few gambling companies, with a few like apparel companies. Like we were just doing affiliate links, like nothing crazy, nothing too smart. And then we could see that was getting traction. We could just see how big the sports market was. And then we were like, cool, let's bring back the stuff that we're doing with StudentSoc and put it into the sports world. So it started with the podcast. It started with something creative. That evolved into sports, and then we brought it back. So it wasn't as polished and smooth as I like to say.
You grew RealSport to 9.5 million monthly users. What's the strategy for doing this in the 2010s? Because obviously it's very different for now.
Yeah. Well, you say that. I think the strategies are very similar. How you achieve them have changed. Finding an opportunity, a well, which you can just go at and you know how to unlock and you figure out how to unlock. Like, I don't think that's changed. It's just how you achieve it is different. So back at that time, Facebook was still the main platform. That's what everyone was on. That's what everyone was using. But there was a big algorithm shift where now suddenly, and you guys probably just see this as standard, but suddenly anything that you post in feed doesn't necessarily go to every single one of your followers. Something which is so obvious now. Back then it was like, hold on, I've got 50 followers and not all 50 of them saw this one post. How's that happened? So it was a really big shift, and it took out a lot of companies. That algorithm change. But we found a bit of a glitch, which was if you posted in a Facebook group, every single person in that group would get the notification. So we were like, cool, we can get this distribution. And some of these sports groups were massive. There was, the Man United fans of the USA, which was like 3 million people, like whatever it was. We're like, oh wow, okay, we can just do this for free. So I remember we had a viral video, and it went super viral for the cost. This is such a throwback. If you find this video to edit it, it'll be really funny. So there's this viral guy called Puff the Houseman, okay? And he had this really viral video. God, how times have changed and what would go viral now. And he got a haircut in a barber, and the caption was like, when the trim is fresh. And then he just does like a weird dance at the end of it. Okay, it was called Puff the Houseman. And we had a weird contact into him, and it was about to be, it must have been Euro 2016, I guess. Euro 2016, yeah, it must have been Euro 2016. And we had a brand partnership with a gambling company called which one was it? It was Coral. And we basically just got him in, and it was like, when your accumulator hits, and then him doing that stupid dance. And it went so viral. Like, it was massive in all these sports groups. So you could just build basic content and almost like guarantee virality, because you're just posting it into the right groups. You were just getting like 3 million hits immediately. So we just got very fortunate. We got so fortunate with that. And what I'll say is, those things still exist. Maybe to not the same extent, but I managed to do the same with LinkedIn in 21, 22 for Connected. So that opportunity, especially as new platforms come through, it was the same with TikTok when it first came out, right? Like, if you hit it at the right time, even Threads for a moment had something there. So I think those opportunities just exist. That's just what we found at the time.
How are you finding these opportunities? You seem very good at finding where the gap is to exploit almost. Is it just testing?
Yeah, it's throwing as much shit as a wall as possible and hoping something sticks and follows it. And I think that's if you're entrepreneurial with what you do, that doesn't have to be expensive. Yeah. It's small scale testing, very small scale testing, which if you see an interesting trend, just go for it.
With RealSport, so it's a media business, but how long did it take you to work out where the main source of revenue is? Because that's one of the tricky things of media businesses. Like, we're building a media business essentially. We're like, where's the money going to come from? It's a tricky concept.
It's a really tricky concept, and we suffered with that a lot. So there was another big algorithmic and almost like market shift back in 2017 where things moved away from eyeballs to subscribers. So for a very long time, and there's some big businesses like Stephen Bartlett's business, Social Chain, they were an eyeballs business. They never really monetized well. Like, it was all about owning, big pages, but they
get as many people to look at them as possible.
Exactly. Like, it was purely about eyeballs. And that's how people thought about monetization back then. And Lad Bible, like Social Chain. There was lots of these big companies out there. RealSport was a company like that as well. Loads of eyeballs, but not very good at monetization. And when that big shift happened in 2017, where suddenly investors were like, okay, great, you're growing at this rate in terms of viewership, but you're not converting them to subscribers, it really, really hit us. We got very lucky with the exit that we had. We got very, very lucky. We were going to run out of money. That's the truth. We were going to run out of money because we weren't good enough at making revenue from our media. What happened is, and our lucky escape was that we were amazing at understanding what resonated with our audience. We were really, really great at building engagement and having an owned platform. I think that was a big thing. Like there was, do you guys remember a YouTube channel called Copper 90?
No.
Wasted us.
Yeah. Funny enough, they were like a YouTube channel of the year for like 2015. They used to do these amazing sports documentaries, but we could always see that like if they fell out of favor with YouTube, they had nothing. So that's why we had built our own platform, because we knew that we had an asset. Like we weren't just going to rely on monetizing other people's channels, especially when we had been hit by algorithms. So we knew that we had to own something. So because we had that own platform, we were able to be acquired by a big gaming company called GFinity. They were amazing at monetizing media. They were the CEO who acquired us was a guy called Gary Cook. Gary was the ex-CEO of Manchester City. He'd been on the board of the UFC. So he really understood how to monetize media and sports. So they were great at doing these big brand deals. So they had the rights to be the esports operator for the Premier League, for the NBA, for Formula One, like really big deals. But they had no idea how to distribute it as online content. So they were like, we can run your TV show, but they just knew nothing about online, which again is so crazy to say now, like wouldn't be the case now, but back in 2017 was. So they approached us and said, look, we see that you've got 9.5 million monthly users for like eFormula One, for FIFA, for like all the things they wanted to be in. And they basically asked us to build them a whole content plan, like asked how we could do a deal in a smart way. And we knew that they needed this to secure those contracts. So we just priced them out of a deal and made it obvious that they should just buy us. Like we made the deal so expensive that they were better off just buying us.
How did you feel the night that you sold the company?
Well, when you sell a company, it would be so nice if it's like a really
Instantly
clear.
hits the bank.
Instant would be even better. Yeah, 100%.
It's a bit of a myth, isn't it? Everyone thinks it's like, oh, 10 million in my bank.
Done.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that it works is there's like months of dance even before an offer comes in. So for me, November 2017, we were running out of money big time. Like we had failed to, we tried to launch a subscription model. It didn't work. Like we weren't subscription guys. Like we were content guys. Like YouTube's great because it's already got all of those funnels built in. We were trying to build our own, like everything was our own. So we were trying to figure out how to do these conversions. It wasn't really work. It didn't work. So December 2017, we had got the offer in, but who knows if the deal's going to happen. You speak to many business owners who get an offer for an investment deal, for an acquisition, and it feels good, but it doesn't happen. So the options were either this is going to happen and I'm going to become a self-made multimillionaire at 26, or I've got like 50 grand of payday loan debt. I owe my family money. I owe everyone I've ever met money. I'm going to have to leave town, like that. And it was that swing. So for that 3-4 month period where you don't know what the outcome is going to be, it's almost like paralyzing. Like I spent Christmas 2017 in bed, like hiding. Just like every phone call that comes through, it's an accountant, it's a lawyer, it's the buyers, it's, oh, well, we just found this. And we had some big shit. What's the year now? I think I can talk about this because I'm past my like. So another thing when you sell a company is you have something called warranties. So you as the founder who sells the business, you have to write a disclosure letter when you sell your company, which is, these are all the things that I've done wrong. These are all where all the bodies are buried. This is what risk you're taking on. Because if you don't tell them and they find out later, they can sue you for all the money that you made. And depending on what's in that, they might turn around and say, cool, well, we'll still buy the company. But if these people come for you, it's still on you. So yes, when the money hits your account, you're like, I've still got 3 years to count down because of all the mistakes that I made. Because what the fuck did I know as a 21-year-old setting up a company? Now it's like I'm on the hook for potentially millions. So it's like, yeah, it might be sitting in your account, but you're like, well, it's not really mine yet. And what we had, so we had this content engine, this online platform, and we had millions of images from our customers who have infringed on rights. They've been pulling stuff from Getty Images, Shutterstock, like all of these things, which we had millions of images on there. And we were like, oh my God. And they were like, cool, well, if Getty comes for us, they're coming for you, not us. So even when the money hits your account, you're like, oh, every night to sleepless night for a little bit. So yeah, it's not as straightforward as like overnight we're done.
No, incredible. Would a business today still buy a media business like that, do you think? Would that happen in 2026?
No, because I think eyeballs are worth nothing. Unless they're eyeballs on like YouTube or an area where there is such a correlated, CPM. And I'll tell you what, maybe you saw Gary Neville's company. I can't remember the name of it. It's the Overlap. It's this podcast company. Like it's a new media company, and they just bought out 2 fairly big YouTube channels recently, and they're big. Like big YouTube channels. One's that Goldbridge guy. I'm definitely butchering all the names. I'm sorry. And the others, I think United Stand. And these are really engaged channels, millions of followers, and they've got like 500,000 each. So that shows you the difference. That shows you how much less valuable, just views are than if you have like an owned revenue model in that way.
Okay. So if you were building the exact same company today, like what would you really focus on? Obviously, not focusing as much on eyeballs, but what would the processes be like within that company?
Well, I think it's all about a very high value, to the point we made before. Like it's high value, low volume. It's flipped the model completely, right? It's about resonance now. I would have niched down. We covered like every sport and every gaming title. I would have made it like a FIFA site or a football manager site and really niche down into that, like built tooling around that, got a subscription model going, something recurring on that way. And yeah, I think that's it, like really niche down, especially if you're not looking to fundraise. If you're looking to fundraise, maybe you can go broader, but yeah, I just totally niche down.
We've had many founders on who've, from day one, they're built to sell. What was your thinking with this company when you were a 21-year-old building this?
So I got fortunate because my co-founder's brother, my co-founder at the time's brother, had moved from the UK to LA and had wanted to pursue this American dream of like going down the entrepreneurial route, and he raised some money. And we were like, oh shit, you can raise money? Like, other people can give you money to do what you're doing? So it was really mind-blowing for us. But I'm very grateful to him, because what it showed us was, how this works. I knew no one who had raised money. Like, it just, LinkedIn wasn't a thing, like content around entrepreneurialism wasn't a thing. So I got very, very lucky that my co-founder's brother had done that. So we had someone very close to us who was a few steps ahead. So hearing how he was talking about things, how he's structuring deals, thinking about investment, thinking about raising, we're very lucky. And then he had one angel investor based in the UK called Nigel, and he introduced this to us. And we knew nothing when we pitched him. We knew nothing. We were so green. We didn't know how to value the company. We didn't know what we were doing. Nigel just liked us because we had pitched the owner of a Papa John's to say, can we get your basement space for like 600 quid a month? There's like a basement, no windows, somehow freezing cold. It was just, and we were sleeping in there half the time to try and make stuff happen. Do you know, it's so funny how quickly the world changes. We had to spend, we didn't have any internet in the basement downstairs, and it wasn't as simple as getting stuff sorted. We had to get BT to come in and stick a line for us into this basement under a Papa John's. And because it didn't really have an address, they couldn't like figure out how they were going to make this work. So we had to pitch them, but we had to speak to them first thing in the morning. And we just realized, like, right, we're better off we got to stay up the whole night because we had something going on with an NFL draft. It was like 4 a.m. that time. So just the chaos you had to go through for like the most basic logistics. But the reason, sorry, I distracted myself, ADHD. The reason Nigel really liked us is we were basically living out of this basement, and he was like, cool, these 2 guys living out of a basement, trying to make something happen. Like, I'll cut him a small check. So he is a very, very experienced angel investor. Ironically, he was the first investor into Domino's Pizza. We were under a Papa John, so there could have been like a tough thing there, but it was fine. He was first into Vice Media, Nutmeg, which was acquired by JP Morgan a few years ago, Simba, Jubel, like big investor. So he helped us understand what it means to sell a company. It's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to start Connected, is I could see, even for a clueless 21-year-old, having access to someone with that experience and that expertise was the difference. There is 0% chance we would have sold the company unless we'd had someone around us. And it wasn't about his cash. It wasn't about his cash. We didn't raise a lot of money for RealSport. It was about the access that we had to his experience, to his knowledge. And that was one of the reasons.
Go around the right people.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I was passionate about starting Connected.
So we've got 3 businesses from our subscribers. And we're gonna sort of test how you grow them today. But before that, what industries would you be looking at if you were 20 years old today in 2026?
If I was 20 years old today in 2026 and I wasn't running Connected, I would run as fast as I can into helping old school businesses implement AI workflows. If you're a business owner in 2026, and this will be increasing every month, every year from here on out, you have AI anxiety. You feel like you are missing out. You have FOMO every single day. There's a new Claude release. There's a new tool. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? And if you're in a slightly antiquated industry, you're 10 times further behind, or at least it's how you feel. So I would be going to business owners, hotels, hospitality, anything where they're not like tech native, and just sit with them, help them scope something out, deliver it. I guarantee you will be able to save them significant cash, because if they are a bit old school, like, there's probably so much that you can do on that optimization, and then charge them X amount upfront and a monthly management fee. And you don't even need to be like amazing at AI. You just need to be thinking a bit forward. So I would be going as hard as I could on that.
Okay.
And I think there is many hundreds of millions to be made in that space in the UK alone.
If we dig a bit deeper though, like, what would a young person go and implement? Because we hear a lot like AI is where you've got to focus on. But if you were to approach an antiquated business, is it like, oh, we'll put a chatbot on your website? What exactly?
Yeah,
should they
or
be
like phone systems, call agents. Like call agents would be a really nice one. So if you're taking calls where you're limited to the hours of business opening, like, you don't need that anymore. You might be able to bring in something like tax filing agent, which would allow you to take purchase orders from locations that you don't currently service. Right now, like, I don't want to take a payment from a country that I'm not registered in, because it's just a nightmare to go and do it. But using an agent to do that and integrating into like Anrock, for example, to do that for you, like, cool. Now I don't have geographic boundaries anymore. So I think there's just
niching
loads
down onto one thing like that.
100%. But I think it's also like running a bit of a diagnostic with that business. The beauty is you can use AI to run that diagnostic. So run a diagnostic with that business and understand like where they're creaking, like what that leakage looks like. Every business is different. But yeah, I think if you lean into that and you probably need an unlock for hospitality. You probably need an unlock for hotels, for restaurants, whatever it might be. But then you can rinse and repeat.
I guess you've got someone to say, we will implement this and save you X amount. That's what they should be pitching, right? Totally.
It's just in those businesses, especially with what's going on in the world at the moment, margins are razor thin. So unlocking 1-2% on margin is revolutionary for those types of companies.
And what should a young person be charging? Like a monthly retainer, or taking a bit of that
implementation fee up front, and then a monthly management fee on top. And again, like these work, a lot of these tools run themselves, right?
No, it's interesting. Just because you hear a lot online, oh, you got to look at AI, but it's nice to actually go a bit deeper and see where a young person listening can actually go and find something they can go out to business and offer.
Yeah, I think there's, going even deeper into it, like if you've got anything that's customer facing, high volume, low value, what you see is that relationship normally takes a massive backseat to urgency and efficiency. I've only got half an hour to speak to this person, or 15 minutes to speak to this person, or they're only paying me $1,000 for my product, so I can't go and build like a massive relationship with them. You know, using a basic agent to do that background intelligence, pull things together, like arming your customer-facing team with much deeper insights to find a better balance between rapport and efficiency. like those are massive. Again, like if it's a company at a decent scale, like those things are massive. So I think there's so much to be done. Most companies, as they scale, they just lose huge efficiency, and dealing with those inefficiencies has been too painful for a lot of companies to go for it. With the current tooling available, that pain is significantly reduced. So there's just a lot of debt, a lot of legacy debt that these companies have that I think is really solvable now. Most of these companies don't have a full-time internal resource focused on optimization. And most of these business owners will have a strong gut feel over, if they had someone with those skills, what would they do? So most business owners know their company and know the bloat well enough to probably point you in the right direction. So that's what I'd go all in.
Really interesting. Yeah.
We now have 3 different business ideas from subscribers of the channel. If we were to give you £1,000 and 30 days, what would you do tomorrow? So starting off with the first business. Business number 1 is a product type business. So it's someone that sells candles online and at pop-up stores.
And at pop stores, nice. Okay. If you're looking to run a business in 2026 where you're not looking to raise funding, I think there are a few fundamental principles that regardless of whether you're doing a product or a service, you need to lean into, especially because on a 30-day timescale, it's not a big marketing campaign, it's driving a client acquisition, right? It's like, how are we going to survive after 30 days? Like it's a hardcore speed run on finding some customers. I think the 3 pillars that are going to resonate across any business are content, ads, and influencers, right? And without those 3 and that type of budget, like you're not going to go far. In terms of content, I think it's about building own channels, domain expertise, whatever it might be. Like for candles, I don't know how you're a domain expert. You could be. You might be like amazing interior designer, for example, but like your own channels for sure. Running small scale ads across Meta, across YouTube, like it's amazing how quickly you can test and learn and scale things up when you figure out that payback. And then partnering with micro influencers who should be able to distribute you into the space. I think the first micro influencers deals that you will do will probably be the worst ones that you do, because in order to get someone on board, especially in a 30-day time frame, you're probably going to have to be very generous with an affiliate link. But if you can go and find like a decent sized, not big, but like a decent sized, like a mid influencer who would partner with you, it's then really easy to go to much smaller influencers and say, well, look, we've already partnered with someone who's a bit more recognized in your space to unlock more, partnerships on that side. And then, I think like pop-up store collaborations, if you're on the candle side. I would also say with candles specifically, I feel like people buy more for an occasion. I feel like people think about it as an occasion. Yeah. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just my like bias.
Like a Christmas or
Christmas or like a birthday or like, all right, I'm going to do a date at home. Yeah. So I would try and bundle into like that rather than that is where I'd go. But I think content ads and influencers is just like, if that's your budget, like you're a bit constrained.
Yeah.
Let's move on to business number 2. Business number 2 is a service business. It's a car detailing company.
Nice, like that. I mean, again, I'd say content, ads, and influencers, but I think with something more service-led, there's a big play for direct marketing in terms of like flyering through the.
The old school techniques.
Old school techniques. Yeah, I think especially something service-led, local, friendly. I think is really important. And then also, interesting, in that £1,000 budget, does that include like cost of servicing?
No.
It doesn't.
Let's put it out.
Perfect. Yeah. In which case, do some free work. Like for a lot of service businesses, you need case studies, you need testimonials, you need reviews. It's a bit different for a product, especially candles, but for someone to trust you with their car, like you need some proof points. You need that social proof. So 100%. And if you can do it for an influencer, again, like that's going to be your clearest route.
It's interesting that flyers are still the
Still,
thing
yeah.
for a service business like that, like door-to-door flyers.
There's a guy. He used to be the main product manager of the workplace product for Meta, and I saw that recently. I recently saw, but he's been doing it for a few years. Left Meta, and basically just built a like flyering ads agency, and it is killing it.
Yeah, imagine.
Because the response now, it's not saturated. It used to be that you have 1 million flyers. Now it's quite rare. So the response rates that his customers, for the right type of customer, is getting, there's a lot to be said for it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose content creation as well, it's getting more and more saturated. So
Yeah.
with a flyer, you can just cut through the
Yeah.
noise in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the other interesting thing about the algorithm in 2026, and again beyond, is it used to be fairly formulaic around paid spend, and if you spend X, you would get Y. I think that is really changing pretty aggressively, and it's hard to make inroads on paid in the way that you used to. Now it's about owning attention, so that's why I think influencer is it's okay.
Business number 3 is a software business. So it's an in-game stats plugin for like a video game like Fortnite or
Yeah.
Rainbow Siege, that sort of.
Yeah, I love
Type of
that.
game.
I always love gaming businesses. Reminds me of a simpler time in my life. I'll tell you what, working in gaming and sports, the perks in that compared to working in HR tech, because we're very, very different. So I think for any software business, explain a video. Like, it's so key. Like a really awesome video that can just take you through the user journey, like really help your potential customers or partners understand the value, I think is such an important one. Sub communities as well. Sorry, like subreddits, other communities, Discord, I'd be going hard on. Again, like referral partnerships, affiliate partnerships, influencers on that side. But yeah, for a software business, explain a video. I would be tempted to spend like £800 of that 1,000 on the explainer video, because that type of platform should lend itself to very self-serve. You know, it's going direct to a consumer, someone who's already really into their gaming. Like a good explainer video should nail that and just reduce a lot what you need, and then the rest is distribution. So yeah, I know from firsthand experience, gaming communities are so viral and they're so sticky. Like if you build a bit of value, it distributes like wildfire. You know, like
word of mouth. Actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
People are really connected to their games, aren't they? I'm trying to think of a game where the audiences are just so, it's everything to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle almost. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So after the sale of RealSport, you had a go at stand-up comedy. So we want to talk about this. Like, why?
So why? Do you guys know who Dave Chappelle is?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God.
Harrison,
You do. Okay, Harrison, you know. So I saw Dave Chappelle perform at I think it was Royal Albert Hall with Jon Stewart back in 2017, maybe 2018. He killed. It was so good. I love him. Like, he's such an amazing comedian. It was great. And then I saw him on the same tour, but like 6 months later. I sat in the front row, and I guess must have been 2018. I sat in the front row, and I don't want to say he bombed, because he didn't. Like, it's Dave Chappelle. I don't think Dave Chappelle bombs, but he just wasn't as good. And I could see that it was like 80% the same material, 20% new stuff. I was like, oh shit, that's how they do it. Like, it's trial and error with the most amount of variables you can ever imagine, but it's just trial and error. And I was like, oh shit, maybe I can do this. I said to my girlfriend at the time, I was like, oh shit, do you see that? Like, maybe I can do that. She's like, come on, you think you can do what Dave Chappelle can do? Like, who the fuck do you think you are? And I was like, yeah, fair. But because I'd said that, I'm very much like, if you're going to say something like that, stand on it.
You got to do it.
You got to do it. Got to do it. So I did an open mic night not long after that, and it went pretty good.
It went well. I was going to
It
say.
went pretty good.
I was going to ask you. I was expecting. Oh, it went awfully. No one.
It went
laughed.
pretty good, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I know I wasn't good, but I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right.
Yeah, there's something there.
Yeah, something there. So I did a second show and a third show and a fourth show. I was like, getting better. I was like, this is fucking easy. I was like, this is so. I was like, I knew I could be Dave Chappelle. I was like, how dare I let my girlfriend doubt myself at the time? And then I did my fifth show, and within 4 seconds, everything went wrong.
Oh no.
And so wrong. And I bombed so hard. And it was traumatic. is the only way to put it. It was so difficult. I'm sitting there and it's like, I did my opening joke, which so far, by the way, looking back at it, I didn't kill in those first 4 shows by any means.
You just didn't get
but I
booed
just
at.
didn't get booed off. Yeah, exactly. I did on the 5th time. So it was like, okay, I'm up there now. The first joke didn't go well. Silence. I'm like, okay, we'll go to the second joke. And it's like, oh, this has not gone well either. And I was still very much figuring out my voice. And I was tried to be a bit edgy with my comedy, let's say, a little bit on the darker side of comedy. And that crowd did not enjoy that type of comedy, it's fair to say. It was so, and you're standing there for like 7 minutes of pain and no one's laughing. And it was so bad that for the rest of the night, if any comedian, they were having a bit of a rough time, they just made a joke about me to like get the crowd back on side. It was that bad. And I then, after that night, I then had an obsession because I was like, what the fuck happened that for 4 nights this was going well? Same set, same energy, same this. On the 5th night, like everything's just changed. And I just became obsessed. And over the next like 12, 14, 18 months, whatever it was, because it was just in the run up to COVID, I was doing stand up 5-6 times a week, just obsessing over everything. Like what made that good? What made that bad? There were some shows. There used to be a club called, it was the Cavendish Arms in Stockwell. They used to have a big night on the Friday night called Comedy Virgins. It was really good. And there'd be some nights when you're in there and it's like, oh my God, this is going so well. And the next night, same set. And it's just flopping. And there's just so many variables to it that I think if you have a bit of a brain that likes to work in that way, that's why I really compare it to a lot of founders starting out, which are just testing and trying different things. I think it can become a bit of an obsession. But it was cool, man. I had some really good nights with it. Beat the Blackout, which is like a great award to win for those who may have seen it at Up the Creek Comedy Club, which was a lot of fun. You can actually find that video online.
Oh, maybe we do.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything more terrifying.
I highly recommend it. And I think everyone should do it because I'll tell you what, I think I bombed really badly, like 4 or 5 times, like really badly, where it's like, just you want the world to open up in front of you and get swallowed into it. I bombed really badly 4 or 5 times. After that, nothing is scary. Like genuinely nothing is scary.
Yeah.
I've done big talks. I did, 3,000 people at an event at Box Park. I've done big investor shows. None of it is even slightly scary. So I'd highly recommend.
And you attribute that to your stand-up comedy years, essentially.
Yeah, totally. And I think the other thing is sales pitches get 100 times easier. Investment pitches get 100 times easier because you're not trying to make someone laugh. But the cues that you pick up on to know whether you're doing well or not are such a great skill. So the last time I did stand-up was just before COVID, was like the day before lockdown or whatever it was. And obviously couldn't do it after that. And wasn't going to fucking do Zoom stand-up. Somebody's going to do that. I was like, what are you doing? And I just thought that was the end of that part of my life, whatever. And then I started to build Connected. And I remember one of the first pitches that I did for a VC, for a pretty big VC, after coming out of lockdown, when you were back to face-to-face meetings. And I was pitching and I was like, oh shit, like I feel they're like taking that energy, and I feel, because there's no better feeling than when you're crushing it on stage, and it's like and you know this joke's gonna hit, and like you're just gonna kill that room. Like it's the best feeling. And I could feel that same energy when I was doing investment pitches. And I was like, oh shit, like I can see like they're eating this out my palm right now, which I just never thought I'd feel again. And that really helped me understand that in the exact same way that you're constantly iterating a stand-up set, you're constantly iterating your investment pitch, your sales pitch, your pitch to customers, your pitch to employees to come join you, whatever it is. So I think there's a lot to be learned from that type of feedback gathering.
Are there any other lessons you learned? Because the reason we brought it up is like you said, you learned so many lessons about business from doing stand-up. Is there anything else?
I think it's mainly that. I think it's mainly the pitching. I think it's mainly the pitching that you overcome the fear of rejection pretty quickly as well.
Exposure therapy.
Definitely exposure therapy, that side, especially if you're as bad as it as I was. But I think it's that. It's the energy, and it's the instant feedback, and thinking on the fly a little bit as well.
I suppose so.
Some of the best nights I had stand-up wise was when the material went out the window and you're just reading the energy in the room. I think it's the same with pitches. I hear like founders, they're so tied into what their pitch is that they almost lose the freedom to follow the interest of the person. So it's like, this is my pitch deck, you're going to hear my pitch deck. Whereas actually, if you're on slide 3 and this person's like really interested in something that's going to come up much later, great, throw the script out the window, like lean into that and just go for it. So I think there's a lot to be said for building freedom into the way that you do things to maximize rapport.
Have you ever done it since stand-up? Was that fail the last time?
I'm a founder, right? So I'm so all in. It's like there can be nothing else that exists in my life other than the thing, other than the thing that I'm really trying to do. So when I sell Connected, well, we might pick it up again.
I'll come to your show.
There you go. Love that. You can boo me as well. So.
After the period of stand-up, it wasn't long before you started building again. Now, your next company, Connected, as we just mentioned, has been featured as one of the fastest growing companies in the UK, which is incredible. So well done on that.
Thanks, man.
What is it that your company has that allows it to achieve that? Like, what do you do in Connected?
We were just ranked 18th by the Sunday Times for fastest growing companies in the UK and 67th by the Financial Times for fastest growing companies across the whole of Europe. Yeah, which is crazy. We're very, very lucky in many things. We're lucky that the way that the world has evolved over the last 5 years has just created the perfect conditions for fractional working to thrive, right? So there are so many things outside of our control that have really fueled that. So we feel very, very grateful and blessed that that is the case and that we can help people with the uncertainty going on in the world at the moment, which is fortunate for us. And we're very much right time, right place with those things. So I'd be lying if I didn't say that had a big part to do with it. We've had to build a lot on the fly. Because when you're growing at the rate that we are, you don't have the luxury of pausing and saying, like, how should we do this properly? So that often can really pull apart businesses. Again, where we've been really lucky is we've built a team of very low ego individuals who are happy to turn around every 3-4 months and say, what I have built is no longer working. Often people get very defensive when things change and they're like, well, actually, no, sales is working. It's a marketing funnel that's broken, or it's the content is whatever it might be. There can be a lot of finger pointing, but we've been able to, I believe, build a very, very strong group of people who feel very psychologically safe in what we do, so that people can own, not mistakes, but own like areas of growth, own where they have to change without worrying about like, oh, what does that mean for my job? You know? So I think the culture that we've built is a big part of it, and it's difficult to do that. And yeah, a lot of luck, man. A lot of mistakes along the way. We've also made some insane decisions that I don't think a lot of founders would have made. So I don't think I've really spoken about this as openly before, but we're far away enough from it now that it's fine. Over the course of 2024, from March to December 2024, that 9-month period, 10 months, let's say, on 8 of those month ends, we had less than a week's cash left in the account. We had, at one point, we had like 40 grand in the account on cash outflows of 800 grand a month. So spending 800 grand a month, and we had 40 grand in the account at the end of March 2024.
That would stress Tom out.
It was stressful, man.
Now,
it was stressful. So a lot of founders at that time are going to say, well, let's slow the fuck down, right? Let's stop spending 800 grand a month if we've got 40 grand in the month, 40 grand in the account left. And we owed a lot of suppliers as well. We had 40 grand and a lot of debt. I probably should say this, but I will say it because we're actually great now. We're in a great position now. But we grew 130% that year with that little money in the account. So we didn't take our foot off the pedal, and we just knew that we could, like, we had such conviction in what we were doing that instead of saying, right, let's slow down to like avoid the chance of certain death, we were like, let's fucking double down and go for it. Because if we get through, because we have to for us to achieve what we want to achieve, and for us to have to match the ambitions that we've all set, we have to keep on pushing through. So one bad week, one bad month would have been the death of us over that 9-10 month period. We got very lucky and got our way through. So you have to make some big bets in order to achieve the growth that we've had.
And how do you build a culture of a team that doesn't slow you down and that agrees with what you're doing and can pivot quickly?
So at RealSport, I think I was too much of a micromanager. I think I had to be in the loop too much. So I maybe even overcorrected for that at Connected. And I've been very, very, very trusting, so I don't get in the way. I've also hired people 10 times smarter than me in every area. So I really defer to them to go and do that. I'll keep the vision together, definitely keep everyone aligned and knowing where we're trying to get to. But the how that we're going to get there, like I really leave it to those guys. So the survivorship bias, right? There could be many people sitting here right now saying, well, I did the same thing and we didn't get through. So there's no blueprint to success. Anyone who tries to sell you one, it's probably just
trying to sell your course. Yeah,
absolutely, it's just trying to sell you a course. Exactly. So there's no blueprint to success, but we got lucky with a lot of stuff.
You mentioned something called fractional work. So what actually is that?
Fractional work is where an individual monetizes their time in a way that means they're not dependent on one full-time job. We believe that because of AI and automation, for many, many people, traditional employment is less secure than it was. I really believe we're about to go through the biggest shift to the workforce since the Industrial Revolution. And I think we see that. We see that in lots of ways. We know that a lot of people are nervous about it. We know they're uncertain about it. And we believe that if they think a bit more entrepreneurially about their career and how they're going to make money in the future, this is an opportunity, not a crisis. So with Connected, we're giving people the tools to go and work fractionally, everything that they need to go and start those careers. I think for you guys who are super young and of a generation where like fractional is almost like status quo.
Is it essentially like a portfolio career?
It is.
Same? Yeah, because the reason we started this is we've got, I think it's something Simon says, it's like 800,000 graduates coming out of university this year. The jobs are not there.
Yeah.
Like we're like, let's start a podcast, try and get people to think more entrepreneurially.
Yeah, I love it.
And on top of that, it's not taught in school as that's a path. It's like uni, you do your A levels, you get the grade, you go to uni, you get a job. Now a bit more apprenticeship, sure, but even entrepreneurship, no.
Yeah.
It wasn't mentioned at all when I was at uni and sixth form.
Crazy, right?
It's changing
Crazy.
so quickly.
Yeah.
I spoke to an 80-year-old yesterday.
80.
He was like very happy about his daughter going into law. He's like, yes, she's got a secure job at the end. I was thinking, it's kind of changed, hasn't it? Like, I didn't tell this.
Did you break his heart?
I didn't want to break his heart. But I was like,
yeah.
that's the lie we were sold because we came out of school 3 years ago. Yeah. I didn't go to university in the end. I was like, there's no opportunities for me. But things have changed so quickly. So I think you're right. It's important that people start thinking with a sort of fractional career mindset.
Absolutely. So where we really position Connected is people who are actually already like 10, 15 years into their corporate career. So they're really, unfortunately at this stage, very institutionalized. They're like, no, corporate, like this is how it works, corporate structure. And you look at the news every day, Meta laying off 10%, Oracle, Amazon, like all these big corporate companies are going through it. So we're trying to help those people who, you guys are young, right? So thinking about this way of the future, like, is much more natural to you. If you've been in a corporate career for 15 years, it's scary. It's scary what's going on right now. So we're there to service those people.
Amazing. Building on that, what skills should people learn then to sort of develop the mindset of a fractional career?
Sales.
Okay.
Sales is number one.
Really?
Yeah, because once you go fractional, you're not going to have a brand behind you, right? If you're at Microsoft, people pick up an email and go, oh, it's Microsoft. Once you become Andy, who does it's less interesting. So people are going to have to learn how to brand themselves, how to do sales, how to do content, things that we give them on the Connected platform. And I think it's all about the biggest one. Back to the question you had about the service subscriber, you're going to have to do a bit of free work. Just one thing, but you need to get that case study. You need to get that social proof.
But I can see how it is not exciting for someone like you said, who's 15 years down the career path. So I think awesome. Yeah. Fractional career.
Totally.
We'd love to talk to you. We could do this for hours, just talk to you about business, but we've got to wrap up. But before we do that, we've got 3 questions for you from our listeners. So the first one is, as someone building one of the UK's fastest growing companies, what do you believe separates founders who successfully scale in emerging industries like AI from those who stay stuck in the idea phase? And what early signals told you your business had genuine momentum?
Well, the longer you stay stuck in the idea phase as the mad professor in the lab trying to cook stuff up, the further you get away from reality. We shipped Connected when it was 4% ready, and we sold it at basically a 90% discount because paying user feedback, nothing else compares. Time and time again, no matter how much you trust your gut, data always wins. Right? Sometimes the data will reinforce your gut, and that's great. But in those moments, and I've done it so many times myself, where it's like data says this, gut says this, follow gut, you're wrong. So the quicker you can get into data, the higher the chances of success.
Is that the early signal that told you your business would work? Is the data? Yeah.
We had people paying for it, right? And that there's no better data point than that. And then the second one is, did they continue to pay for it? So yeah.
So go out there, see if someone will buy your product. Essentially, yeah.
And our second question, from a young person aspiring to be an entrepreneur, what advice would you give your younger self, potentially unsure about their future?
So I dropped out of uni to continue doing RealSport, and a lot of people thought I was crazy. My parents thought I was crazy. They really wanted me to go and do that because they'd come from, they hadn't gone to university. They hadn't had that background. So they were really, really keen on me doing it. I had friends who were like, you're mental. Like, why are you doing this? I'm sure you guys have had the same. It's not anyone else's job to believe in you. It's your job to believe in you, And if you can get to that place of self-belief, you'll win, because that's never ending, right? You should never live on expectation or dependence on what other people think or how other people feel about you. Just do you.
Amazing. And the final one we got, for neurodivergent people such as yourself, what do you believe has been your biggest superpower, and do you think you'd be in the same situation without it?
That is a great question. The superpower of ADHD is, okay, I'll break down ADHD a little bit from a neurological perspective. So in the healthy brain, the task and focus modules of the brain fire asynchronously, like that. In the ADHD brain, they fire synchronously. So they fire together. The way that the ADHD brain regulates those two modules to fire asynchronously, the healthy way, is through dopamine release. And you can get good dopamine and bad dopamine. So if you can find the area of life that gives you dopamine, that you really enjoy, that feeling that I had when I sold my first CD in the schoolyard in that way, and you can lean into that, then you get your hyperfocus. You get this beautiful virtuous circle of dopamine focus, purpose, dopamine focus, purpose. And if you can find that, you can unlock this endless, never-ending well of energy. So if you've got ADHD and you can find that area, like, you're into a really good spot.
Amazing. Well, thank you to everyone who submitted a question and sent their businesses to us. We hope you enjoyed that. And Roy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.